The data that needs to be reported is what's called embedded emissions. So these are all of the CO2 emissions that are associated with producing a certain CBAM good. Right? So that could be steel, it could be cement, it could be aluminium, it could be hydrogen, and so forth. Now, typically for China, based on what's being exported from China to the EU, typically steel and aluminium are the big ones here. So the first thing that needs to be reported on this is direct carbon emissions, right? So this is CO2 that's directly released by the facility that produces the product, right? So for example, if you're producing a screw and you need to have some kind of milling process to produce that screw, the electricity or any electricity you generate on site, burning coal in a thermal process on site, needs to be reported. So this is sort of roughly analogous to Scope 1 emissions. There's also indirect carbon emissions, right? And these are emissions that are from the production of electricity used in manufacturing a product, right? So again, if you've got some kind of electrified machinery in your factory and you're getting power from the grid, you need to cover this. You also need to cover any energy that you produce on your own within the installation. So, if you've got solar panels on the roof or if you've got a cogen plant, this all needs to be covered. And also anything covered under a power purchase agreement, typically not so common for China. It's not that common that companies have these yet. And then finally, there are precursor carbon emissions. So basically, this is if you've got your CBAM product, your screw, this is simply put the emissions that were emitted in producing the steel for that screw, right? So that is whatever emissions went into producing the raw materials that your product is made of. Right? This can be two scenarios. It can be produced in the same facility as the CBAM goods. If you've got some big verticalized manufacturing where you've got your say you're an aluminium smelter and you're importing sort of sheet aluminium into the EU, you may well do everything in the same site, or it can be purchased, right? As I say, if you're sort of somebody making a screw or a nail and you're purchasing rolled steel, then you're going to need to get this precursor data from your suppliers. So, as you can see, it's quite a lot of data. It's quite complicated, and there's a lot to report here, and it can be a lot of layers as well within this. So the question really from this comes, how do you get good data quality? Right? Because not all data is created equal. There's a few risks with CBAM reporting. The main one is that if you actually report emissions data that's too high, you're going to have to pay, right? And the more emissions you report, the more you pay. Obviously, you've got to be honest about your emissions, but at the same time, you don't want to overestimate because it's going to cost you more money.